I can just imagine the conversation going something like, "Oh, is Mario available?" And Balotelli goes, "Nope," and Barnsley go, "Fair enough then."
I don't think we've seen the all-round game he can bring to Hull City, so I think he's going to get better, which is quite frightening given how electric he's been.
Overall, I think Middlesbrough will end up being a very good side, and we'll look back on this window and say, yeah, they absolutely nailed it.
For me, that lack of investment from the board is really going to hold Swansea sitting back from hitting their potential under Russell Martin.
He's a fantastic player, and he suits the Millwall identity, working your socks off, and he can fit into any kind of system there, really.
Yeah, there's been some weird ones, but one that I found out was quite recent was Alexandra Pato being linked with Birmingham City in 2020.
The worst window for me is, without a doubt, Huddersfield. Plain and simply, they're a lot worse than they were last season. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Stopwatch. It's the topical championship show with a little twist. It's 5 topics, a 2-minute timer, and 2 hosts. We're Ryan and Justin from the Second Tier Podcast. Let's get right into it. Justin, who's been your signing of the summer in the championship?
Yeah, I'll go straight in. Oscar Estupiñán for me. It's an easy one. Obviously, him scoring the amount of goals he has is a big plus, but I think in the games he's played, he's already shown what he's about. He's a born goal scorer. He's there to score goals. He's quick to loose balls. He's sharp. And for me, I don't think we've seen the best of him. I don't think we've seen the all-round game he can bring to Hull City. So I think he's going to get better, which is quite frightening given how electric he's been so far.
Yeah, you're not wrong. He has been amazing, hasn't he? Top goal scorer in the championship, but has just been a poacher, a deadly poacher in the box, hasn't he? Getting on the end of chances. Some of the goals he scored has been scrappy, but you've got to be in the right place at the right time, haven't you? And we were warned this guy was a very, very good player. And so far, he's delivered. And I'm only expecting him to score more goals in the near future. My signing of the summer has been Onel Amadozovic. I stuttered because I pronounced his name so many different times. It's ridiculous. Ahmedozovic, I believe it is. But he's been fantastic at the back for Sheffield United, hasn't he? An absolute rock. They signed him for £5 million. So you'd expect him to be a very good player, but he has been just that. And he's scored plenty of goals already. I think he's got, is it 3 or 4 goals so far?
3.
He's been amazing at both ends of the pitch, Justin. But he looks like a really, really good player. And Paul Heckingbottom's been chasing him for quite some time. Looks like he's been every single bit worth of the chase, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely spot on. I was a bit worried because he didn't look the biggest of defenders, but actually he's suited it really, really well, which again has surprised me. And he's a mean man in a mean defence. It works.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Justin, what's next topic?
Which side has had the best window?
I think there have been quite a few clubs who you could say have had a good window, but the one who stand out for me is Middlesbrough. And people may look at where they are in the table right now and go, okay, how can you say they've had the best window? But I think they will get better now that they've got everyone there. They've brought in the likes of Darrell Lenihan, Matt Clark, 2 players who have been fantastic at championship level at the back for quite some time. And then they've also brought in the likes of Rodrigo Muniz, Marcus Forss, 2 strikers who we haven't really seen how good they could be at this level yet, because they've been behind other amazing strikers, Ivan Toney and Alexander Mitrovic. But both, I think, are capable of scoring a lot of goals at this level. And then Ryan Giles as well has been electric on the left-hand side. He's been one of the best chance creators in the division last season. And so far, he's just carried that into this season. So overall, I think Middlesbrough will end up being a very good side. And we'll look back on this window and say, yeah, they absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, I do agree to some extent. I think that there's a lot of signings to bed in a short space of time, which I think will harm Middlesbrough in the short term, but in the long term, it will work out for them. But it's a lot to gel in. For me, it's Bristol City, and I've said Bristol City quite a few times whenever this question has cropped up. Firstly, they got all of their business done very early in the window. They've kept hold of Alex Scott and Antoine Semenyo, which I think goes overlooked in the importance of a good transfer window. The emergence of Tommy Conway as well, I think, has led to a very good summer. But they fixed the defensive issues, the game management side of things as well, by bringing in Cal Naismith, who's an organiser, who's composed with the ball at his feet. And then they've added Mark Sykes into the midfield as well, which adds a lot of composure. And then there's Kane Wilson, who we're yet to see really flourish in this team, but he's going to allow Alex Scott to come into that central position, which will be very dangerous for other teams. So for me, it's Bristol City.
The only thing is, I think other clubs have been a lot busier and have identified the weak spots a lot better than Bristol City for me, because they've only made, you mentioned the 3 signings that they've made. Apart from that, they haven't really done too much else. And I think other clubs have just targeted the weaknesses that they had from last season a lot better than they have. But we'll wait and see. Justin, this is interesting. Which side has had the worst transfer window?
Which side has had the worst transfer window? Always hard to lay into him, but I'm going with Swansea City on this one. And yes, again, I know I made the point of Bristol City keeping Semenyo and Alex Scott, and Swansea have kept hold of Obafemi and Joel Pirro, which is a massive plus. But for me, that lack of investment from the board is really going to hold Swansea sitting back from hitting their potential under Russell Martin. Russell Martin's style of play needs creative players. It needs some experience in the back as well to be able to have the bravery to play through the thirds. I don't think they have that. I think they're short in their squad. I know they signed Finn Stevens at right back, which is a good signing, good potential signing anyway. But for me, they didn't address their squad depth. They needed a couple of creative options. Obviously, Hans Wolf didn't come back, which is a big issue. And defensively, they lack that aerially dominant player as well, which could harm them throughout the season.
I think Swansea have done all right in the window. I acknowledge it's not been the most ideal one, but it has been because they've been restrained, haven't they? The Russell Martin's admitted on many occasions they've had to let players go to bring players in. Now they have managed to hold on to Pirro and Obafemi, which I would see as a positive, but maybe one of them could have gone so they could replenish the rest of the squad. So yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from with that one, Justin. The worst window for me is without a doubt Huddersfield. Plain and simply, they're a lot worse than they were last season. They've lost Lewis O'Brien and Harry Toffolo, 2 of their best players from last season, and then a load of other players who are, important cogs in the Huddersfield team that got to the playoff final last season. They've gone as well. Those being the likes of Sonani, Levi Colwill. They haven't replaced those players. I like Jack Rodoni, who's come in from Wimbledon. I think that's a good signing. But then you look at the rest of the players, meh, a lot of unproven quality there in that who have come in for Huddersfield. So yeah, that's why Huddersfield for me have started the season poorly and are in serious danger of going down this season.
Yeah, again, I do agree. I think the signing of Michael Heelick is a good one, but you're right. They're in a position where they needed to strengthen rather than weaken. And obviously, two of your best players going isn't always ideal. Needed a couple of attacking options as well, and obviously Rodoni coming in helps that, but perhaps 1 or 2 more. But yeah, I do agree with Huddersfield. It isn't looking like a rosy season like it was last.
Not at all. Justin, who's the most underrated signing in the transfer window?
Always a tricky one, but I'm going to go with Austin Trusty at Birmingham City. Now, Birmingham City have struggled, but Austin Trusty has been a player who has stood out throughout the season, and he's as a defender, he's going to come under a lot of bombardment, shall we say, because of how deep Birmingham will need to sit in the defence. But he stood out for me as a key performer for the Blues, and he's a player that's really impressed me. Obviously, coming on loan from Arsenal, he's 23, he comes with some pedigree, obviously playing in the MLS. But he's a player that's stepped up to the plate, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a recall clause in there for Arsenal, and I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal activate that recall clause and he goes to a team chasing promotion, because I don't think Birmingham City would be one of those teams.
It's an interesting point because I can definitely see that happening, Justin. He was excellent in the first couple of games. I don't think he's been as effective in recent times, but I think there's definitely a player there. And it would be interesting to see if Arsenal look at the situation at Birmingham and go, you know what, I think he could do better at a different club. Most underrated signing for me is one from deadline day. Callum Styles moving to Millwall. I've been a big fan of Callum Styles for quite some time. The Hungarian Berry Baggio. I don't know what his nickname is anymore, but considering he's a Hungarian international, I think that needs to be wedged in there somewhere. He's a fantastic player and he suits the Millwall identity, working your socks off, and he can fit into any kind of system there, really. They like to play with 3 at the back. He can play on the left, he can play on the right, or he can play further forward. He's a fantastic player and he's still very young as well. He's got a lot of growing room left in his career. So I think this could end up being a really, really nice bit of business. Plus, there was a lot of interest from other championship clubs in his services, not only from championship clubs, actually. There was a lot of interest from abroad too, which is understandable because he is a manager's dream of a player, really, isn't he?
Yeah, he's versatile. He works hard. His left foot is incredible. It was one of those players in Barnley's playoff season that we picked out as a top performer, and he was a top performer. And I think he's gonna push. I mean, Gary Rowett wants to play a high press, and he's gonna fit into that system really well, and hopefully activate it a lot better than it has been done in recent weeks. Anyway.
Justin, final question. It's second tier retro time. What is the strangest rumour in Championship history for you?
Yeah, there's been some weird ones, but one that I found out was quite recent was Alexandra Pato being linked with Birmingham City in 2020.
Yes, I remember
Yeah,
that.
I when I read up on it, I remembered it straight away. But at the time, he was 31 and without a club, and it came out from an Italian outlet that rather than head to Internazionale, his boyhood club, it could have been Birmingham City. Could have been one of his destinations, which would have been quite the coup. He won Golden Boy in 2009, and he's just one of those wonder kids that failed to live up to the hype, unfortunately. But wowee, have we missed out on a trick there? That would have been absolutely incredible.
It would have been interesting to see how he would have done, wouldn't it? His career was always hounded by injuries, wasn't it? So that was the main reason why it fell to pieces. And whether a move to St Andrews would have helped, I'm not too sure, but it probably would have been more useful than Troy Deeney. We can say that for sure. Strangest Championship rumour for me is one quite recent as well, actually. It's Mario Balotelli to Barnsley. So Barnsley apparently inquired about his availability, and I can just imagine the conversation going something like, "Oh, is Mario available?" And Balotelli goes, "Nope," and Barnsley go, "Fair enough then," because I just don't think that was ever really going to take off, was it? But you're right, Justin. If you don't ask, you don't get. And if it worked out, then you only have to look at how he's doing in Turkey now. I think he's doing really well in Turkey. Actually, he may have moved to Switzerland. I can't remember. It's always hard to keep track of him. But I remember him having a very good season last season in Turkey. So if he did move, then who knows? Could have been very different fortunes for Barnsley if Mario Balotelli rocked up at Oakwell, which would have just been a weird sight in itself, wouldn't it? And there we go. That wraps it up for another episode of the Stopwatch. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Drop us a like if you've enjoyed, and please subscribe for more content like this. We've been the Second Tier Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Second Tier Pod. I'm Ryan Dilks1. That's Justin Peach 27. And thank you for watching.